afternoon, everybody. Oh, I'm just clipping my microphone on, sorry. I've hit the button before I was quite ready, didn't I? That's better. Okay, hopefully you can hear me now. I've got that fixed on. Welcome into my craft room. It's Friday, October the 14th, and you've joining me for Stampin' Chat Live, my regular Friday afternoon session. I'm a bit flustered this week. It's been a bit of a week. There's been a lot happening at home. There's been not very much happening in my craft room. And I've been a bit stressed about things, but I always love spending time with you on a Friday afternoon. It makes me sit and craft, which can only be a good thing. And we all know how good crafting is for when you're feeling a little bit stressed and like maybe life's getting on top of you. If you take an hour and do some crafting, you always feel better. I have never once regretted sitting down and doing some stamping, and I don't think today's going to be any different. All right, let me have a look on my iPad and check that I'm live. I've got some people saying hello, which is fabulous. Can you let me know, please, that whether or not you can hear me okay? I'm assuming you can see me okay. Right, let's turn down the volume on this. And let me just find my page. There I am, and see if I'm live. And it looks like I am. Hooray. Okay, so Pam is here, and Sandy is here, and Mary's here. That's really nice. And they're saying hello to everybody. So wonderful to have you with me. Pam's saying I'm loud and clear. Fantastic. Thank you, Pam, very much. Right, I just need to reach across and find some blue tack on my desk and blue tack my grid paper down, otherwise I shall be leaning it all over the desk. And Mary's saying the sound's good as well. Hooray, that is good news. When I watch these back afterwards, I do notice sometimes that the sound is coming and going. I think it's because I move my head just a little bit too much for my microphone. So without looking like a robot, I'm going to try not to move quite so much this time, but I'm sure I shall forget. Right, so I'm just trying to blue tack my grid paper down without actually blue tacking my patterned paper down, which is lying across my grid paper. Right, I think we're nearly there. Okie dokie. So I'd love to know about your week. As you can see, I'm still crafting with fridge and freezer, and boxes from the kitchen and boxes from all over the blessed house. However, the kitchen floor is finished. I'm very pleased with it. They finally finished it this last week. There was just some little bits waiting to be finished. My husband has promised me that things will move from my craft room this weekend, so we'll see. I'm sure he doesn't want 35 happy years of marriage down the drain, so I'm hoping that is the case. And believe you me, if I could move the appliances on my own, they would be gone by now, but they're not. But I'm not going to moan about those anymore. So some of you have had me moaning about it for weeks, but it is really nice. I would love some advice from you people. We're going out this weekend and then also through next week. We need some new furniture, and what I'm really stuck on is I need a new table and chairs for our kitchen dining room and a new cabinet. What we have at the moment is pine. It's very nice and I do like pine, but it's very tired. We're looking at possibly getting it refinished, but there doesn't appear to be anything they can do to repair the damage wrought by my wolfhound when she was a puppy. She's sadly not with us anymore, but there's a lot of chewing has happened on the furniture, and whilst I do love it because it makes me think of her, it might be time for some new furniture. I have looked in IKEA. There's nothing in IKEA that looks to be the kind of thing I want. I particularly am looking for a cupboard that's got some shelves behind doors, because I'm not the tidiest of people, and some drawers in it, and that isn't too enormous. So if anyone's got any handy tips for where they think you can see good furniture, that would be good to know. Okay, Sandy's saying the sound has gone. Let's see if the sound's gone for anyone else. I'm just going to type a comment in. Let me know. Okay, we'll see what happens with that. I'm hoping that somebody else will type in a comment and say that it's all right. I'll just fiddle with this a little bit. Oh, it's back. Okay, thank you, Sandy. Thank you very much for letting me know. Let me know if it happens again, and fingers crossed it won't. Possibly something to do with the internet, I don't know. My internet has been dropping in and out this week. If it drops out today, then I will just have to restart again. And the way that works is when it comes up on your Facebook page, it's in like another post, another window. So if I do completely disappear, then be patient with me. I'll restart as soon as I can, and hopefully you will be able to find me again. But I'm fingers crossed that we won't have any problems. And one more plug about my domestic life. At this time, a plug for a local business. I think I mentioned to you last week, I've been having problems with my phone. It was coming apart. I was a bit worried. It was also getting very hot. It's been getting hot for a few weeks now. Anyway, I took it into New Forest Device Repairs in Leamington. I can highly recommend them. The guy has solved a whole raft of problems in one. He solved the problem that my battery was draining really fast. He solved the overheating problem. He solved the fact that the casing was coming apart, and he solved the fact that I had gaps on my screen, which I just thought was my screen going, for £35, which I think is damn good value. So yes, big thank you and a shout out if you've got a phone, if you've got a tablet, if you've got a laptop, and probably all sorts of other devices as well that needs repairing, and you're local to me, I can highly recommend New Forest Device Repairs in Leamington. John was fabulous. Okay, so things to remember. Where are we with Stampin' Up at the moment? We're halfway through October. That means we're halfway through the offer period for joining Stampin' Up. I've made so many lovely friends through Stampin' Up, and I do really love getting my craft supplies at a discount. Imagine what you could do with £55 worth of free craft supplies. That could be all your Christmas cards paid for, and then you've got the fun of putting them all together. So if you've been thinking about joining Stampin' Up, the current special offer is really, really good value. You pay £99 and you choose anything you like to the value of £154. It's the best joining offer I have seen, because there's no, you know, you'll get such and such free. You just get to choose what you would like yourself. If you think you might be interested in doing that, maybe you've got a big wish list, maybe you'd like some new people to craft with because your friends don't like to craft. Maybe you'd just like to get your stuff cheaper. Let me know. I'm always happy to give you any information you need, and then you can make your own decision on that. If you would like to book my November Fancy Fold Cards class, you have until Friday, October the 21st, which is a week today, next Friday. So let me know by then. I will be sending a reminder out next week about that. I'm looking forward to running my October class on Monday. One of my favourite classes, that one. I've just had confirmation about my hall bookings for next year. I had a few dates that they couldn't do, so I've had to rejig some things. So we'll be working on getting my new class list up together as soon as I can. Essentially, I will be running more or less the same as I have this year, which is my monthly card class, which is great for everybody, whether you're a beginner or an expert, on the first Thursday morning of the month. And my Fancy Fold Cards class, which is aimed at more experienced crafters, on the third Monday morning of the month. There are one or two which aren't quite on those dates, but generally that's what I'm doing. And then I'm running 2 all-day extravaganzas, one in March and one in October. So that's kind of the basic shape of things, and I may throw the odd extra class in as we go, who knows. But I will have those lists available for those of you on my mailing list, and I'll email them out as soon as I can, but it's not going to be in the next 2 days or anything like that. But if there's anything that you particularly want to know about, because you're perhaps trying to book a holiday and you don't want to miss a class, let me know and I'll help you out with the information. Right, so there is also a new sweet sampler, which I'm very excited about because it's one of my favourite sweets in the whole catalogue. It is a Christmas one. I'm not going to be doing Christmas every single Friday over October and November, but I am doing Christmas today. So I'm going to show you the new sweet sampler. You've got 2 weeks to buy it. I'm going to put the orders in on the 29th, so you have until the 28th to order it. And then I'm going to make some cards using the sampler to give you an idea for how versatile it is. So as usual, I'm going to turn my phone, which is my camera, down to the desk and show you what's in the sampler and then do some crafting. So bear with me while I cover you over, just so there's not too much swinging around of the camera. Let's just reverse the camera and let's see if I can get it straight and in the right place first time today. That would be great, wouldn't it? Because it's not something I usually manage to do. Let's just see. All the bits that need to be bent. Try and get everything as straight as I can. And then let's take the washi tape off the camera. And once my iPad has caught up, I'll be able to see what you can see. Oh, not too bad. Not too bad at all. You can see my toolbox. Let's move this forward just a little bit so you can hopefully see more of my desk. Now there is a little bit of shadowing. It's that difficult time of year when the light levels aren't great. It's not very dark today, but it's certainly dull. But if I put on my lights, they almost seem to cause more problems than they solve. I had lights on last week and it didn't really seem to help. So tell me if it's absolutely hopeless. But I will probably leave things as they are, unless everyone says, no, I can't cope with the shadows. Right, I've tried to clip my microphone lead out of the way. Let's move this one out of the way as well. There we are. That's better. Because, you know, you're in my craft room with me. I don't have a separate room for filming. I don't have a separate place where everything is set up just for filming. That would be really nice. I don't have the luxury of that. So it's a little bit Heath Robinson, but on the other hand, it's kind of real. So there we are. I think that's better. So let me show you the sweet sampler. So the probably most exciting part are the patterned papers. These are lovely. You're going to get a quarter pack of the patterned paper, which is 6 sheets, 6 inches by 12 inches. And actually, if I put them that way, you can see them better. This is not a directional pattern, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so Sandy is definitely having problems with the sound. I'm sorry about that, Sandy. Let me see if I can improve anything. Bear with me. I'm just going to take my microphone off and recite it. Okay, I don't know if this will be any better. Let me know. All right, so this is pattern number 1, which is greenery and berries. And then this looks a little bit like kind of Christmas camo to me. But you've got a green and red pattern on the back. The next one is poinsettias. There's actually 2 poinsettia patterns in this. And there's a kind of a large version and a small version. This is the larger scale one. And then on the back, there's just a red patterned piece. So that's brilliant for backgrounds. This is directional, so I'm going to show you up this way. This is evergreen trees or pine trees in 3 different greens. This is really lovely. And then you've got a green pattern on the back. This is the smaller scale of poinsettias. This isn't all over, so I can show you that way round. And this has got a red background with kind of a wash of different reds and polka dots as well. This one is groups of poinsettias and berries and foliage. And then on the back we've got a pattern, which actually I think it works both ways. You could think of it as kind of snow on the ground in a woodland, or even as birch bark. So there's that one, and then this one is Christmas foliage and berries. And then on the back we've just got an interesting striped background with a watercolour wash. It also looks a little bit like somebody's like dropped water into the watercolour. You know how you kind of get these watermarks. So that's a really, really nice set of paper. And then I've picked out 3 greens and 3 reds and given you a sheet of card in each. Sandy didn't get the paper and she wishes she had. It is really lovely, Sandy. It's really, really lovely. All right, so you'll get a sheet each of evening evergreen, mossy meadow, shaded spruce, cherry cobbler, real red and poppy parade. So everything from dark and more subtle reds and greens to brighter reds and greens. I'm also going to give you half a reel of this woven ribbon, which is beautiful. Let me put it onto that green card, you'll see it a little bit better. And I'll lift it up. It's quite a loosely woven ribbon. It's really soft and pretty. There we go. Whoops, I was holding it carefully out of shot. That's better. So half a reel of that, which is around about 2.3 meters. You'll get half a pack of these textural elements. These are laser cut wood shapes, and they're lovely just left as they are, with a really natural feel to them. Or you can colour them in with your Stampin' Right markers or your Stampin' Blends markers, or even a cotton bud and some re-inker, I'm sure would colour them as well. So you can make these into, you know, brown stems or green stems with red berries or orange berries, or you can just leave them as they are. They hold on really easily with either the multi-purpose glue or mini glue dots, and they're very lightweight. So although they are a little bit dimensional, they're not heavy. And then finally, I've added to the selection of what's in the suite in the catalogue because I just thought you needed some bling. So there's half a pack of the festive pearls here. That gives you 100 pearls. So you've got 25 each in gold, silver, a soft green and a soft red. And I think the light is catching that. Let me try and lift that up and try and show you the colours. Not picking up the colours very well, I don't think. These two, gold and silver, are very shiny and metallic, and the green and the red are more subtle and pearlized, so they're lovely. So that sampler then, what I do as always is I prorata the cost, I divide it up, see how much 6 sheets of card is and so on, add it together, and then I round it up to the nearest pound. So this, if you can collect it from me at a class or from my home, it'll be £16. And if you'd like me to post it to you, I can absolutely do that with second class postage in a board-backed envelope. That's £18.50. So you just need to order by 2 weeks today, and I've got my email on there, but it's a little bit small. So let's put the big one there while I put all the bits back in the pack. And if you'd like to have a closer look at everything in the catalogue, then you just need to go to pages 24 and 25 of the mini catalogue, and that will show you the papers and the ribbon and those berry elements. Here we go. So this is page 25. You can see here that they're colouring some of those berries. There's some really great samples here, and you'll be seeing me use the stamp set and the coordinating dies as well. Alright, so let me clear all of this out of the way. And let's do some crafting. So I'm going to start off with a very straightforward card, the kind of thing that you could knock up quite a few of in an hour. If you cut yourself 4 or 5 of the base and the insert and the papers and the little pieces, and then just a little bit of fussy cutting, you could put together your cards very quickly and easily. And actually I'm just going to reach that paper again and show you which one this little motif comes from. Yeah, I can just reach it. Okay, having put away the paper, let me pull some of it out again. There we are. I'll show you that in just a moment. So as always, I've got the card and paper measurements here for you, because I know some of you find that really helpful. I'm an inches girl, so they're all in inches. So my card base is 8 inches by 5 3/4 inches, scored at 4 inches, and I've picked shaded spruce. So this is one of the colours that's in your sampler. Then I cut a piece of paper at 3 3/4 inch by 5 1/2 inches. So it's just 1/4 inch smaller all round than the front of my card, and I've used the small poinsettia pattern here. I've cut a square of white card 3 inches square, and another piece 3 inches by 1 inch. And then for my insert, I have a piece of card 3 3/4 inch by 5 1/2 inches, and an extra strip of paper which is 3/4 inch by 5 1/2 inches. This is one of those scrappy pieces that you often get when you're cutting your layers. I always keep them because they're great to go on inserts. And then finally, I have a little piece cut from this design of paper. So I've cut out one of these single poinsettias here. There's singles and then there's doubles. So I've got a single one here. And I'm just going to finish fussy cutting that. I did start doing it and thought I would finish here because then I can just talk a little bit about fussy cutting. If you've watched me do this kind of thing before, then this won't be news to you, but for people who haven't, if you're cutting out something detailed like this, first of all you want some really sharp scissors. Our paper snips are fabulous and they are sharp right to the tips. The second thing is to turn your paper and not your scissors. So if I hold that there, you can see I'm holding the scissors at about 45 degrees to the paper. I mean, you can play with that angle, whatever's comfortable for you, but for me about 45 degrees. So I haven't got them exactly vertical, they're just tilted slightly. And then I'm going to move the paper as I open and close the scissor blades. I'm trying to do it slowly and hoping that you can see what I mean. I'm also holding it at a slightly awkward angle for me. So I'm hoping I'm not going to snip anything crucial off. So I'm just moving that paper as I close the scissor blades. Open the scissors, move the paper again. And that way it's much easier to cut around what you're doing than moving the scissors to and fro. Let me get rid of those bits. The other thing I always do is I leave a very narrow border around what I'm cutting out. Hoping that's in focus. I'm just waiting to check. I think it is. So if you look perhaps at these green leaves, for instance, you can see there's a little narrow white border around the edge. And the reason for that is if I make a wobble in my snipping on that white border, it's not going to notice. But if I make a wobble as I'm cutting out a leaf and cut a chunk out of the leaf because I'm cutting right on the edge of the outline of the leaf, that will notice. So it's much more forgiving, and so I would recommend it. There's the odd occasion where for a different reason I don't do that, but I almost always try to leave a little narrow border around things. And here, for instance, you can see that actually I've cut really close to the edge of that leaf. I haven't really got a border, but it doesn't matter because what I've cut off is the border. I haven't cut off the edge of the leaf, if that makes sense. I hope it does. All right, so now let's put some pieces together. If you need the measurements back, let me know. So I'm going to glue that paper layer down. Pattern paper is always such a great way of starting off a card because the design is all done there for you. I could stamp poinsettias all over a piece of paper and colour them, and sometimes I do because I do love a bit of colouring. But this paper has done all that for me. There we are, so that's my patterned paper down. I'm then going to just think about placing these squares. So my flower is going to go on here, and then I'm going to stamp a greeting on here. So I'm just thinking about the placement of those, and as long as something like that. I usually have a smaller border at the top compared with the bottom. that just looks right to me. If you look at something that's been professionally framed, you'll find that they do the same, because visually that just looks better. So I'm going to leave this piece in place just as a guide to help me get this in the right place when I glue it down. So I'm going for a simple card here, so I'm not stamping anything on this square, but I could emboss it. I could take a texture or background stamp and go all over that. There's lots of things that I could do, but as I say, I'm going simple this time. And I'm also just going to stick my little cutout straight down flat. I could pop it up on dimensionals, but I'm going simple. If you want something more complicated, keep watching, because we're going to go up. But if you're quite new to crafting, you know, this is not too taxing. I've given you the measurements, just cut to my measurements. I've given you some tips on fussy cutting, so you can cut out this little motif. You haven't had to stamp it or worry about ink colours. There we are. So that's where we are so far. And now I am going to stamp. I'm just going to stamp a sentiment on here. I'm using the coordinating stamp set Leaves of Holly, and either Season's Greetings or Christmas Wishes, or indeed these others, From Our Home to Yours and To Friends Near and Far, all of those would fit on this little strip. I'm actually going to use Christmas Wishes, and because it's a photopolymer stamp set, I've got a piercing mat here, because there's no foam on these, and if you've got something a little bit soft that you're stamping on, you'll get a much better impression. You can use a couple of old magazines if you don't have a foam mat. You can use an old mouse mat. Does anybody use mouse mats anymore? I can remember when they were essential. We don't seem to use them anymore. And I'm using shaded spruce ink. So there we are, that's my sentiment. So I'm going to glue that on the front. And this card layout, this will work for absolutely anything. Any of the papers you've got in your stash, any of your images. It's really simple, but it's quite interesting. I like the fact that the sentiment is detached from the focal image. I could have cut that all in one piece. I just think it's a little bit interesting with the background peeking through there. So that's my card front done. I'm now going to do my insert. So I'm going to pop down my paper piece first, and that will help me place my stamped words more accurately. On grid paper, of course, I can just line up my insert with the grid, and then line up my patterned paper with the grid and make sure that it goes down straight. There we are. And then I'm going to use some of the other words from the same stamp set. I'm going to use Joy and Peace, or Peace and Joy, wouldn't matter which way around I stamped it. These are separate images, and I've got them on separate blocks, just to make placing them easy. I did try putting them all on one block, but where you've got kind of the border around the image, it was just a little bit too much space in between the words, so I popped them on separate blocks instead. I think I'm going to do Joy and Peace in that order. So this is my Joy stamp. And then Peace. I'm leaning over just to get above everything. Hoping my head's not in your way. There we are. Joy and Peace. And what's nice about having them on separate stamps is that I could stamp that in a line. I could reverse the order of the words. It's much more versatile when they're on individual images like that. Right, and now I'm just going to glue that in, and my card is finished. So a simple card, but it's one I would be very happy to send to everybody. And you can make that with the sampler. You can also substitute in things that you, let me pull that away a little bit, there we are, other things that you have in your stash with the same layout. If anybody wants the measurements again, let me know. So I'm going to pop that one aside, clean off my stamps, and then we'll step that up just a little bit. And stepping your cards up is something you can do as well. If you come up with a really simple card, that can be great if you haven't got much time. But if you want to do something a little bit more, instead of redesigning everything, you can just use the same card, but just add a little bit to it, which is what I'm doing here. So what I'm adding to this card is some extra patterned paper, some of the red festive pearls, and an extra layer of card. So this time I've got a card base, a layer of contrast card, and then my layer of paper, and I'll show you what I'm doing with these in a minute. And I've got some die cuts, I'll show you what I used for those. So let me give you the measurements. So the same size card base as before, 8 by 5 3/4 of an inch, scored at 4, and this is cherry cobbler. Then my next layer is 5.5 by 3 3/4 of an inch again, and I've used shaded spruce. And then I've just gone down 1/8 of an inch on the height and the width for my paper, which gives me a really narrow green border around it. So that's 5 3/8 of an inch by 3 5/8 of an inch. And then my insert is just as before. It's 3 3/4 of an inch by 5.5 inches. And this time I haven't got patterned paper for the inside, just for a change. I've also added to it the Leaves of Holly bundle. So the stamps I've already showed you, and then these are the dies. The dies are lovely. There'll be more of the dies in my last card. But you have a label with some holly leaves on it. You've got another separate label piece. You have some open holly leaves, which will also cut out images. And then you've got some detailed holly leaves that work on their own or layered on top of the solid leaves. This piece here enables you to cut out something which you can layer with the holly leaves on the labels. Then you've got 2 little spriggy pieces here, which you could either use as they are. They look quite a lot like conifers. Or you can use them with these 2, which are berries. So you've got a die which cuts out the stamped berries, or will give you a bottom layer for this one, which is a detailed die. So there's lots of mixing and matching you can do with these dies. I've used this one, this labels die, to cut out a white label. Let me put that on the paper, you can't see it otherwise. There we are. And then I've also used the layering circles dies, which have been around for a long, long time. These are great. They're so versatile. You've got a whole selection of plain and scalloped circles. So I've cut out one of those. And I've got a spare label here in case I mess up, because it has been known. All right, so let me do a little bit of layering first. This is just as you saw me do before, except we've got that extra contrast card layer. Using this liquid glue means I can get those really narrow borders even all the way around, because I can slide my paper on top of the card before the glue grabs. I'm just going to drink some of my tea because I can feel my throat getting dry. Bear with me. I'm hoping there wasn't any ASMR there as I swallowed. I can't stand ASMR actually. I can't remember what it stands for, but I know I don't like it. It's kind of, I don't know. Oh, makes my skin crawl. I've got some glue on the front of my patterned paper there. No doubt it's all over my fingers. So I'll just use my glue eraser to get rid of that. Okay, so that's that. So what I'm going to have going on here is a circle and a die cut. So similar to this one, but different. So on my die cut, I'm going to have paper which I've cut from this same patterned piece here. But this time I've used 2 of the double poinsettia motifs. So it's not that one, but is it that one? Yeah, they're all, you know, very slightly different. And I'm not sure where that one was, but let's just say I took that one. But anyway, 2 of them. I have cut that one out, just as I showed you before. And then on this one, I've just cut out the little flower. And I'm going to cut out the big flower. If I can find my scissors, there they are. So just as before, I'm turning the paper rather than the scissors. And what I'm going to do is some decoupage, where I have a base image and then I have sections of that same image cut out separately and I layer them together. And you can do this with lots and lots of our patterned papers. So I'm going to stick this on here first of all. I'm going to glue down my base image. It goes slightly off the edges of the circle, which I like. It looks a little bit, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the word I want. If the image fits exactly inside the circle, sometimes I like that, but this just looked a little bit confined really. It just looked like it wanted to spread its wings a bit. And I can put this all sorts of different ways around. I think I like it something like that. There we are. Rubbing glue off my fingers. I don't seem to get so much glue on my fingers if I'm just crafting for myself, but when I'm here with you, I get covered in it. Okay, and then I'll just work out which is the best way for this to fit. Like that, I think. And you can use your bone folder just to add a little bit of shape to these if you want. Flick up the ends and perhaps dome the middle a little bit. And then a couple of trusty dimensionals on the back. 3 even. then I'm just going to, I can't remember which way around I had this now. There we go, layer that on the top. And I've just got a little bit more depth and interest doing it that way. Try and turn it sideways so that you can see the dimension on that. I don't know if you can. A little bit you can. Much easier to see in person. And then same with the smaller cutout piece. This shaping will probably squash if it goes in post, but it looks nice anyway when it gets sent out, even if it gets a little bit squashed on the way. And once again, just finding where this looks good. And it does give you the feel for layers and layers of petals when you put both of those on. I'm going to stamp my label. And either of the sentiments from before are going to fit on this. I'm going to stamp in shaded spruce ink with quite a lot of red on the front of this card. So let's go with some green. There we go. And I could put that on dimensionals, but I think I'm going to glue it flat, simply because that way there's a little bit more emphasis on those flowers, because they are the only things that are raised up. There we are. So that's my card front. And then do some work on the insert. I'm just looking for my other ink pad, which I know is here somewhere. There it is. So I'm going to use the same stamps on the inside, but I'm just going to vary it slightly. I'm going to stamp the words the other way around, so instead of joy and peace, I'm going to do peace and joy. And I'm also going to use 2 ink colours. I don't think you can hear a whining dog in the background. I look after my son's dog while he's at work, and she's obviously decided she wants to come in with me, and she's making her feelings known. And she's a nightmare when she comes in here. She's a very noisy dog. So if she'd lay on my feet under the table, I'd have her in here like a shot, but she won't. So there we are. So that's peace and joy on there, and I've just used cherry cobbler for the ampersand and then shaded spruce for the 2 words. So let's pop that inside here. Finally, I'm going to add some of these lovely red pearls, and I'm just going to pop one on top of each of these little berries just to bring those to life. there, just because it's slightly darker, and I think you can see a little bit easier. I'll bring it up a little bit closer. Hopefully it will focus, and you can see those flowers and the little pearl berries. So that's card number 2 of 3. And let me put the 2 together. So we've got the really simple and quick one here. We've got one here that took a little bit more time. There's a little bit of die cutting on this. I've added some cutout paper layers, and I've added the pearls. I'm going to clean my stamps, and then we'll move on to card number 3, my final one, where I've kind of pulled out all the stops. And I'm just going to clean these stamps. Okay, let's move those away. And pull in some new pieces. Now, there's quite a lot of die cutting on this card, so I did that first, so you don't have to sit and watch me endlessly put things through my die cutting machine. So there's the measurements for this one. So I've gone slightly larger on this. I've made a 5 by 7 inch card by cutting my card base to 10 by 7 inches and scoring it at, oh, that says 3 inches, which is obviously completely wrong. Let's just correct that. It's not scored at 3 inches, it's scored at 5 inches. Okay, it's better. It's scored at 5 inches. Then I've cut the same paper, that's that small poinsettia pattern, to 4 3/4 of an inch by 6 3/4 of an inch. Then I've got a piece of very vanilla card, and I've embossed this. I'll show you the folder. There's a pack of 2 embossing folders in the catalogue called the Wintry embossing folders, and one has got this pine branch pattern, and one has got a snowflake pattern. Let me see if I can show those. They're not easy to show on camera, but let's just see if I can. Let's see if they show. I'm trying not to get the light on them. There we go. I think you can. I'm sorry about, you can see a ceiling light in there, but you can see the pattern. So this is the one that I've used, and these are sized so they work with the Mini Stampin' Emboss machine. But obviously the piece of card I wanted to use is bigger. So what I did was I embossed half of it, and then I embossed the other half. And there is a little bit in the middle that's not perfect. And if you look, you can see that the 2 patterns actually don't line up. But that's going to be hidden with everything else on the card, so it wasn't a problem. My insert is vanilla again, and that's 4 3/4 of an inch by 6 3/4 of an inch. And once again, I've used the Leaves of Holly bundle, which I just showed you. I've just showed you the Wintry embossing folders as well. Now they're in the annual catalogue on page 175. So the other things that I have done is I have cut several die cut pieces. So I've got that label I showed you with the holly on it. I've cut one of the solid holly leaves. I've cut a couple of the detailed holly leaves. There's another design as well, but I've only used one. It's slightly bigger. I've cut a couple of these little twiggy bits. I've cut one of the labels. And then I have 2 of the textural elements, these lovely wooden berry pieces. I've cut out another one of the red poinsettias, and then I have 2 more, but actually what I've got on these, let me lift them up and show you, is, you know when you have a piece of patterned paper and you've got the pattern that goes obviously right to the edge and in fact off the edge, and you get these kind of random pieces. That one's got a right angle on it and this one's got a piece cut off it. You can still use those if you're clever about it. So this piece of paper is slightly different, but that flower there, for instance, is very similar to my flower. It's got a bit cut off it there. And these flowers here, that one there isn't dissimilar to my flower, so it's off the corner. So I've used a couple of those rather than cut into brand new flowers, when I actually can get away with a design where they're kind of pieces of flowers. I've also got some of the woven ribbon, and I've cut the ribbon in half to give me narrower pieces with this nice fraying detail. And then I've also got some of the pearls. Now I played around with these and did what I normally do when I'm designing, which is once I get something I really like, you've obviously got to take everything off to start gluing it down one by one. So I normally take a photograph. Well, I can't do that here in front of you because my phone is being used to film with. So I printed off the photo and I've got it here as a guide, but this would normally be on my camera. So I've just laid everything out without gluing anything, and then taken a photograph, and I shall now follow that. I played around quite a lot, then I got a design that I liked, and that's what I'm going to work with. So first of all, I'm going to glue down my patterned paper. It's really helpful that this design is an all-over design. It doesn't matter which way up or which way round you have it. And that means that all those small rectangles you cut off are going to work anywhere. Gosh, I made a mess of that. Did you see all that glue go in the wrong place? So all the little bits of this are really usable. If you can see, I've got a big smear of glue there where I dropped the paper. When that's dry, I shall get rid of that with my glue eraser. Alright, so I'm now going to glue down this embossed piece, and I always use a little bit of extra glue if I've got an embossed piece, because the bits that appear on the front as embossed are debossed on the back and are not making contact with my card, and therefore I put on a little bit more glue to compensate for that. And I'm just going to drink some more tea. Over the microphone. I hope you didn't get tea drinking noises. Okay, so that's my paper layer and my embossed card layer down. The next thing that I'm going to put down is this die cut label. This is beautiful. It's really, really detailed. It's great if you've got some of the adhesive sheet to put that down and then die cut this label. It makes gluing it down really easy. I've got the adhesive sheet, but I forgot about it, so instead, I'm just going to pop some little dots of glue on the more solid areas. And there's going to be other things going down on top of this, so it will get kept down quite nicely. But adhesive sheet would have made it much easier, because then this would have come out like a sticker. I'd have just peeled off the backing and stuck it down. Now this label does work up that way or this way. I'm going to use it this way. And across here is where my border of that join in the embossing is. And this is just going to nicely cover that over. There we are. So that's now glued down. And I'm going to check where my label is going to go. My label is going to go about here. So I just want a little bit of that flower peeking out. Like that. So let's glue that well over there. It's really just to get a little pop of red on this side. And then I have one of these little branchy bits down there as well. don't use tweezers very much when I'm crafting, but I probably should have dug mine out for this. There we are. So that's those two elements there. And this messy part here is going to be covered over by the label. Then I'm going to put some of the elements over here and then lay the label down and then finish the rest over the top. So I've got a loop of this ribbon. So I'm going to pop a glue dot on one end. And then, hoping you can see that, I'm just going to glue the ends of the ribbon together like that. That gives me a loop, and then I'm going to pop another glue dot on to stick it down with. And I find that making the loops in my hand like this and then gluing them down is much the easiest way. So that's going to go there in that corner. I've got some of these lovely wooden textural elements. I'm just going to pop a little bit of multi-purpose glue on there. And that's going to glue down like that. And all the time I'm just following my sketch here. So I'm starting with whatever's on the card base and then working forwards. So then I have this holly leaf. It's kind of a lacy effect, so it will layer really nicely on top of the solid die cut, or you can use it on its own, which is what I'm doing. And that's going to go down here. Let me show you, I've got a couple here before I glue them down. There you are. See, they will layer on top of each other, and there's another holly leaf that's a slightly different size and shape. Ugh, it's sticking to my fingers. I told you I was covered in glue. There we are. So you can cut the detail in gold even, or all sorts of things. And there are also more solid stamps and detailed stamps, so you can do the same thing with colours of ink or embossing powder. Honestly, the sky really is the limit with this bundle. It's so versatile. So now I've got the same die cut, but it's cut in vanilla, so it's going to jump out at you much more. It's a much lighter colour. And that's going to go there. I've got more ribbon here, so I've got more loops to make. I'm hoping it's not all going to stick to my fingers. You're all very quiet. I can see I've got people watching. I don't know if you're crafting along with me. Let me know. Okay, so that's a ribbon loop. I've got two more of those to make. And honestly, glue dots are so easy for this kind of thing, because they grab instantly. You're not using liquid glue that's going to soak through the ribbon, and they're really strong. There we are. So that's 3 ribbon loops, and now I'm just going to fix them down here. And this kind of messy area here is going to be hidden, so I'm not worrying too much about what that part looks like. Right, that's my last ribbon loop. So now I think I'm going to put my label down. It's going to look something like that, but I need to stamp that first. So I think we're going to go with Christmas wishes again. That says it all really. I've got cherry cobbler ink. This is going down on top of my shaded spruce label. So rather than use green ink, I think red is nicer. And I'm going to glue that flat because there's lots of dimension from all sorts of other things here. That's where we are so far. Right, so to finish off, I've got a solid holly leaf. She's going to kind of go slightly tucked underneath that ribbon, like that. I've got another little wooden berry set, the textural elements. I've got this little sprig here. For me, the key is lots of different textures. So I've got solid things, I've got lacy things, I've got fabric, I've got card, I've got wood. So contrasting textures, contrasting shapes, some are lacy, some are solid, and then layering them, and some are under, some are over. And just playing and having fun. So my last two pieces then are my casualty poinsettia. So I've got to make sure that this bit that was cut off on the edge of the paper is hidden. And then I've got a better poinsettia to go over the top. So I also don't want to hide my words completely. So something like that I think is going to work. And this one is mostly actually going to sit on top of those berries. That. And then this one, I just want to make sure I hide all these messy stalks and stems here, and I also hide that straight edge that is on that cut off poinsettia. I think actually I'm going to put glue dots on the back of this one because this is gluing onto fabric and card and wood as well. The glue dots will make sure that it doesn't come adrift because they will secure all those materials. If it was just card, I would just glue it, but I think glue dots are going to be a safer bet, and I'm going to put several on there because it's going down onto an uneven surface, and I want to make sure that at least some of them make contact with all the little bits. So there we are. I need one more under there. Let me just hook that off with my scissors. Tuck it under there. There we are. So I just need to add some pearls now. And I'm just going to kind of scatter those. do, so that's 7 pearls. I usually, not always, but usually use an odd number of embellishments like that. If they're really scattered, it doesn't necessarily matter, but if they're close together, an odd number is more pleasing to the eye, although I don't know why, but it is. So there we are. So now I just need to do the insert. So somewhere I have a holly leaf stamp, which I'm going to stamp the inside with. There we are. So you can see that's kind of a lacy holly leaf, and there's also a more solid one that you can stamp, and you've got both of those in 2 sizes. And then actually let's use Season's Greetings for the inside. We've got Christmas wishes on the front, and we'll have Season's Greetings inside. I always use my grid paper to line up my photopolymer stamps because it's just so easy to do that. So I've stamped my holly leaf in shaded spruce ink, and I'm going to stamp my words in cherry cobbler. There we are. I just need to glue that into my card, and then it's done. This is my favourite card of all 3. I like all 3 of them, but I do love all the details on this one. And with the exception of the stamps and dies, which are from the same suite, everything I've used on here comes in the suite sampler. So if you order one of those, you can make any of these cards, and you can also substitute in papers and use different patterns for the cards. There we go, let's put them that way around. I had them kind of in order, I think, but they look better with a bigger one in the middle. So that's my super simple one. Just a little sentiment stamp, some cutout paper, and everything else just cut out on my trimmer, so there's no die cutting in that at all. This was a step up where I've die cut a circle and a label. Again, very simple stamping, but I have added an extra layer to the front, and I've decoupaged the patterned paper and added some of the pearls. So there's a few more details on that one. And then this one, where I kind of pulled out all the stops, I've split the ribbon, I've done some die cutting, I've cut out from the patterned paper, I've done some embossing, and I've also gone for a larger card. I do really like this 5x7 size. I think it works really nicely. It's not too enormous, but it's just a little bit more impressive than the half A4 size. And yes, I've got the textural elements in there and some stamping as well. Right, so I'm going to cover up the camera and turn you to face me again so I can say goodbye. It was only slightly overrun, but it was definitely time to stop. Okay, so there we are. I'm just going to unclip this wire, or it's going to pull out, I think. Right, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been lovely to spend time with you. I will be back here at 2 o'clock next Friday. I have to confess, I have no idea what I'm doing yet, but I will put up a Facebook event. I was a bit late putting up today's event. I'll try and do that sooner for you next week so that you can plan ahead. But thanks ever so much. I hope whatever you're doing this weekend is going to be lots of fun, and I will look forward to seeing you again soon. If you'd like to order the sweet sampler, then just contact me by email and I'll be happy to sort that out for you. Thank you so much, and bye-bye. And I'm trying to get the finish button, which doesn't want to come up. Here we go. There it is at last. So Mary can't wait to get her paper to make some of those cards. And you are very welcome, Sandy. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much, everybody. Bye-bye.